The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Hello, I'm Mary Rozak, the Director of Communications for Albany County, and welcome to Albany County News. I hope in the next 30 minutes you're going to find out a lot about Albany County that you didn't know, and you'll want to go to the website, find out even more, and find out more about the person that we're going to talk to today to kick it all off, and that's Albany County Executive Daniel P. McCoy. So welcome. Welcome.
This is a great opportunity for Albany County and for the residents of Albany County to really hear what's going on in their county.
It is, and you have been doing quite a bit in the last 3.5 years, but in the last year or so, there's been an issue that has been at the forefront, and I want to get started talking about that, and that is crude oil transportation. I know that you've talked about it in the media a lot about some of the dangers. Why don't we just recap what some of the issues are that you see in Albany County with the transportation of crude oil?
You know, first and foremost, this really started with the residents. This is a movement of the residents in downtown Albany and around Albany County that really said, look, we don't want these trains through our backyards. If they're going to go through our backyards, then we want it done in a safe manner. And as I started going to all these public forums, I saw more and more of these residents speaking up. But, global not listening, and we have to be a partner. I believe firmly when you're in government, you have to be a partner with the people, with the companies that do business here, because we want them to be successful. We want them to expand their companies here, but we also want them to enjoy the quality of life that all the residents in Albany County enjoy. So
let's stop right there. Some critics, will say to you something that I just heard you say that would counter business. You're not anti-business. This is not about stopping the transportation of crude oil, is it?
No, I've made it perfectly clear. There's no way we're going to stop the trains from coming through Albany County, but we can do it in a partnership and in a safe way. We talked about the DOT 111s. We talked about the DOT 1232s that don't meet the safety standards. NTSB in 1991 basically said they should be, we should take them off, that even a DOT 111 sitting there in the heat can explode.
And you're talking about the actual tankers for those who do not know.
Yeah, I'm talking about the actual tankers. And when they wanted to put these boilers in at the Port of Albany, we put a moratorium because I looked at it as my old hat when I was a firefighter. I looked at the approach of public safety. How do we respond to this? How do we protect the people? And that's the stance that we've been doing here. And, I've been really let down by Secretary Fox, for the federal railroads because, basically they put all this off for the next 8 years. They've been talking 2018, 2022. Why can't we do this now? Especially when NTSB came out with a report saying in the next 10 years we're going to see so many accidents. Mm-hmm. And they put extra plating on the front and back of some of the DOT 111s. No, let's just get rid of them. Let's get them off the tracks. Let's put proper equipment on there. Let's talk about the positive train control measures that we can put in there. These things we can do so when they go through our backyard, it's done safer.
You've done more than just call for these things to happen. You've done more than just a rally out there. You actually had a summit at St. Rose in June. Can you talk about this crude oil transportation summit, who you brought in and what you hope to accomplish, and have you?
We brought in 4 experts, and I say experts that had this type of problem in their backyard from Virginia, when we had the derailment and it went into the James River. We brought in the fire chief from Maine to talk about, he responded to Canada when they had that awful spill up there over 2 years ago that killed 47 people. We brought in a doctor that's a national expert on this issue. And we brought a person in from Illinois to really talk about how they responded to this incident, how it changed the way they responded, and also how the impact was on the environment. And that's one of the two things on my mind is the safety of the people, and secondary is the environment, because we got to protect the people, and people don't realize, all these trains going through, God forbid if something happens, you're talking a disaster that could be in the billions to clean up, and God forbid if we lose a life.
What do you want to see happen? You want those tankers replaced more quickly, but that's not the only thing. Am I correct?
No, it's not. There's this PTC, they call it. It's a positive train control mechanism that NTSB has said since 1991, if these were installed in these trains, you wouldn't have these accidents that are happening. So there's no reason why they can't get them implemented quicker. There's things that Congress and the Senate just been sitting on that just keeps being delayed and pushed back. There's different things, the PSI, that really takes down the pressure of the light oil and the tar sand oil that gets transported at North Dakota. They can lower that even more. They lowered it, but the federal government's letting the oil industry, basically regulate themselves. And we need to really change that philosophy. I lobbied the state. The governor put $50 million aside for spills. I said it should be $2 billion, if not $200 billion, because that's the type of money you're going to need. If you have one of these accidents, that's the type of money you're going to need. But it comes to the response, because a lot of these communities in New York State, you have some like here in the Capital District, City of Albany's paid, Watervliet, Green Island, Cohoes, all paid departments. But the rest of it outside of there is all volunteer. Do they have the personnel to respond? Do they have the equipment? And most importantly, do they have the training to protect their community? These are things we've been lobbying for. We've been doing a comprehensive study. I'm waiting for Sheriff Apple to get back to us on that. So we basically can say, do we need a countywide response team? How do we respond to this? Do we have someone that's trained 24/7 that can respond to this and really take over the scene to help departments that really rely on volunteers?
So I'm sure there are folks that are out there that are thinking, you're waiting for this comprehensive report to come back. If something were to happen today, are we ready? Do you know how much oil is coming through? Do you know actually what is in those tankers? How would you?
Well, here's the problem. We have 16 million gallons of barrels of oil coming through the Port of Albany every week. One of the things I took away from the summit, the chief said, take your worst case scenario and times it by 3. And he goes, and you still won't be prepared.
Did that surprise you?
It did, because, being in the fire service for 20 years, you always plan for the worst. But when the chief said that kind of, I said, wow, we really, we're going to do our jobs. We always do. The men and women of the fire department will respond to the call, but we have to respond in a way that we're protecting the emergency personnel responding, but also to the citizens. And how do you evacuate them? How do we do accountability? These are things we have to continue to do, tabletop exercises, and really just, we're not trying to scare people. And I know people have accused us of that, but we're there to protect people. And God forbid if I get woken up at 3 in the morning, it's not going to make it right if something like this happens in our backyard. But it's going to, I want to know I did everything in my office and used every power in my authority to protect the people of Albany County.
Tabletop exercises. Can you explain to layman's terms what that is?
A tabletop is you take downtown Albany. If a train derailed or explosion happened, who's going to respond? How you're going to evacuate the people out? Communications. We're working on the 911 consolidation system, so everyone can talk on the same frequency. Things like that. That will really help responding to an incident like that much more effective of knowing what personnel. If you look at Superstorm Sandy, when that happened and we responded to that. They got such an influx of clothes and food. It went right to the dump because they couldn't handle it. There was too much coming at them.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. And but the thing is, that's why you need resources in place that know how to handle this, know how to say what we need to respond and what we don't need.
I've also got to ask, because there are going to be some people out there scratching their heads and saying 911 systems, they're not all on the same frequency. I know we digress a little bit from the topic.
Oh yeah, no, you take Gilliland. They may not be able to communicate with Bethlehem Fire Department or Albany. You're on different frequencies, so that's been an issue that
they can't just change the button or something.
Sometimes
and
they can.
To each other? Okay.
No, they cannot. They have to use a dispatch to get communications going.
Okay.
So this is something the sheriff's been working on, and I commend him on that. And we've been helping them with to really address the 911 system, which we're hoping in the next year or two, then everyone will be able to communicate. We're talking about a consolidation of Rensselaer County and Albany Albany County with the city of Albany and having one 911 system that, we can handle all dispatching, which would be the first of its kind in New York State.
Really?
Which will save taxpayers money, but hopefully expand services and improve on them with the state-of-the-art facility.
I can only guess that this, when you're talking about an expansion of the consolidation, this might also be what the governor has called for in terms of looking for efficiencies. Is that why it was maybe one of the reasons it was explored?
Well, it's one of the things that Kathy Gemino and I talked about, and then Mayor Sheen, and then we circled around with Sheriff Apple, and he was on board. So it was, we kind of started talking about how we can share services. I meet with my counterparts in Albany County at least once a quarter. I meet with all 19 municipality leaders, but then on top of that, I meet with Kathy Gemino from Rensselaer County. I meet with the Schenectady County Chair and the Saratoga Deputy or the County Executive up there, and we get together and we really talk about what we can do. One of the things we talked about was a Capital District SWAT team. Instead of having everyone having their own SWAT team, we would basically get together and there would be one SWAT team for all counties to train. Each county would put so much money into it, and that would be their full-time job.
SWAT teams. I mean, there have got to be people now saying, we need a SWAT team? Everyone needs their own SWAT team. How many times these SWAT teams, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. You probably don't know on your... How many times, though, does that come into play? I mean, does everyone really, truly need their own
Well, I mean, you look at 19 municipalities, and pretty much every one of them have their own response team. And this will save money on training. This will save money on equipment. And it also will help with continuity of this person really saying this is their job, and they're going to focus on negotiations, or they're going to focus on response. It really helps out, but we just got to decide how do you do that going forward. But these are things that we're looking at, and it comes down to planning, and that was the one thing when we had the summit at St. Rose was how do we plan for this and how do you communicate, because you need the communications to move forward, and sometimes you got to crawl before you walk, and we have to walk before we run, and right now we're kind of starting to walk, so we're starting to get our legs on, so we can start addressing these issues.
So is that the biggest takeaway as we get back to the summit? We're here today with Albany County Executive Daniel P. McCoy talking about what's going on in Albany County. Is that the biggest takeaway that you had from the summit, was the preparation, the communication?
Correct. I mean, it was a variety of things that we talked about and things we didn't think about. It helps to hear how people dealt with it. Like in Virginia, one of the things we talked about and I brought up to the fire chief that came up, I said, no one got injured, no one got hurt. And he said, no. I said, but if you go on your YouTube and you look at the explosions going on, there's a gentleman standing on the roof by this incident, breathing in all that sun. So what's he breathing in?
Sure.
So is he going to get cancer, or God forbid get sick, respiratory problems down the road? Well, how do you document that? And it's the things that get to us that we don't necessarily see on the scene of a call at the time, but we need to address to protect the people for now and into the future.
So what's happening right now then, post-conference? I'm sure you're working on the next steps. You've talk to Secretary Fox via letters?
I've sent a couple letters to Secretary Fox. We were let down when we've been fighting to slow down the trains, and he only addressed it for Erie County and for New York City, which was disappointing. We said the train should have to. I don't care if 10 people live in a village. It should affect whether there's 1 million people there, because aren't them 10 lives just as important as the millions of lives? Mm-hmm. And to me, the Secretary overlooked that and said, no, they're not. To me, every life matters in this case. So, when these trains roll through these communities, they should slow down to a speed of 5 to 10 miles, do it safely in a good partnership. And there's one of the things we're still continuing to agree to disagree with Secretary Fox. But these are things that need to be changed. And the federal government and state give a lot of money to the federal railroads to enhance their line, to do different things. But they never give money to the communities to help offset for personnel, for safety personnel, for equipment. And this is something that I've been lobbying for, that I like to see change, that when these trains roll through it, that we take in consideration that town or village. If they're a volunteer, maybe they need equipment and training paid for. If it's a paid department, maybe they need money to offset personnel. So these are things that we need to address that they're not talking about, and we're going to continue to talk about and continue to push into these DOT 111s and 1232s are taken off the tracks.
Let's talk a little bit then also about the the federal support that you've gotten. Let's talk about Gillibrand, Schumer, Tonko, Gibson. What kind of support have you had in this?
They have stood up. Senator Schumer basically started calling them bomb trains or missiles. Gillibrand's been out there, Congressman Tonko and Gibson. They've really been talking about it, and it's kind of hard because we're in the minority in Congress right now, and trying to get it effectively through has not worked. And but we need more federal level people getting on board with this to really help us identify the issue, but really help us change the outcome. And the only way we're going to change the outcome is to move up that timetable, get the DOT 111s and 1232s off the tracks, and implement the PTC controls and the other safety mechanisms that will really make it safer for these rails to go through our backyard.
Okay, so we're going to stay tuned on
Stay
that.
tuned. There's still more to do.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about something else that I know throughout your administration has been near and dear to your heart. It's very personal for you. We're going to talk about veterans. Yeah. You yourself, 26 plus years, National Guard?
National Guard.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And I should indicate that every opportunity that you have, you're always thanking veterans that you encounter for their service as well. So that's something that I don't think that people always realize. But you're out there doing all kinds of things at veterans events. But the Veterans Service Bureau, there is a new director on board, just started within the last week or so.
Yes. Michael Good, retired Command Sergeant Major out of the National Guard, 38 years experience, he combat vet. He brings a unique aspect to this department now, because there's a new conflict. We've been at war for 15 years, and most people don't realize that. They don't, you live your life day in and day out, and you're not thinking about the men and women that are going overseas and serving. And they're coming home more with PTSD than ever before. And you're seeing more and more homeless veterans, women that are walking the streets, that are living on the streets with their kids. And, to me, it's unacceptable, because most of the time when you go into service, and I always say this, you don't do it for pats on the back, you don't do it for the uniform, you don't do it for the medals, and you're sure as hell not doing it for the paycheck. You do it because you want to serve your country, and you sign that dotted line knowing that you can make the ultimate sacrifice for this country. And you serve where, Uncle Sam tells you to go, you go and you serve. You come home, and next thing you know, you've been, most of these soldiers, these young men and women that have been in the military, have trained for their whole life, the last 6 years, just for war. Now the war is coming to an end. We're still there. I mean, you can't say it's over because we just sent the 82nd back into Iraq. But they come home, and now they have to adjust to civilian life, and they have to adjust back, and their temperament's different. So we need to have that support mechanisms there for them. We need to be lend them that shoulder to lean on and saying, look, we have your back now, and we're going to help you get through this and get you back on the right track and get you back to working and get you, refocused. It takes some time, and so we've been really working with Soldier On. We're doing the first of its kind in New York State. We took our old nursing home, and we're going to turn it into a homeless campus, so to speak, for homeless veterans.
Now that's a project that you've talked about on this program before. So it's a long process.
It has been a long process, but we're hopefully going to get the shovel in the ground in the next couple of months. And really, it's going to be about 150 apartments for homeless veterans that they will own. Mm-hmm. They can go there, get therapy for the day. They can take different courses, and we're also trying to do like a dorm room for veterans that are coming off of active duty that are still young, might be 22 years old, and now they want to go to college and use their GI Bill, but don't want to be in a dorm room with an 18-year-old that, they're on different wavelengths. Sure. This veteran's seen combat action or been through a lot, and, they're not hitting it off so they can be with their own peers, have their own experience, or they have issues they're dealing with, so they can live in a dorm with their fellow brothers and sisters in arms and go to school and still have that experience. And when they're ready to get back on campus, they can make that adjustment. But these are things we're trying to do. We also, in Albany County, did a Veterans Identifier in our Department of DSS.
Yeah, tell me about that, because I know you're very proud. You've got a little bit of hardware to show today, I think.
We do. It's the first in New York State. We basically took a veteran and we put them in DSS. And veterans are entitled to a lot of different benefits people don't realize, and the veterans don't realize. Because when I came off of active duty, you're just like, you're not hearing what they're they're saying. You just want to get home to your family.
Sure.
And they're saying, well, you're entitled to this, you're entitled to that. So now we have someone in there that takes the veterans. Since we launched this program in June of 2014, we've helped 260 veterans that come through that door basically get different benefits they didn't know they were entitled to. We move them through quicker. And it does save us money in the county and the state because now we're using federal benefits versus state. So it is a savings to the taxpayers, but we were recognized by NICO, which is the National Association of Counties.
Yes,
Yeah,
I had to bone up on that one, make sure I knew the name of that one.
which was great, for doing the first of its kind in New York State. And they actually sent us a little award for Albany County that basically recognizes that the position that we created, and hopefully other counties in the state of New York and in this nation are going to follow our lead on this and really take the opportunity to help veterans get quicker services and get them on their feet quicker.
Well, that's wonderful. I know I'll let you put that down now, but that's wonderful that the program has gotten national recognition. It's not, I mean, you're getting national recognition for a lot of things that are happening here in Albany County.
You have to look. My approach to government's been this, and I've gotten criticized early on. I strive to treat Albany County as a business, as a corporation. I strive to make a profit, and I said, but when we make a profit, instead of going to the shareholders, it goes to the taxpayers of Albany County.
And talk about how that's translated. So how have the taxpayers benefited?
It's translated. You got to remember, when I took over in January of 2012, we had about roughly a $15 million structural deficit, fund balance deficit. We had about $19 million in our reserves. There's 15 bargaining unions in our Albany County, and 10 of which were outdated since 2008. Our non-union workforce hadn't had a raise in 4 to 6 years. So you really have to change the cohesiveness around. You have to change the attitudes around, but still continue to deliver them quality of services. But you have to do it smarter. And some programs that we've run for 20, 30 years, if not longer or less, that didn't have a proven track record, we had to try something new. And I always tell people, no one likes failing. I don't like falling down in public, but in order to change things, sometimes you got to try a new approach. And if it doesn't work, you know what? I dust myself off. I pick myself back up, readjust, try something different, because that's what it's about. You can't be afraid to fail, because at the end of the day, it's about saving money for the taxpayers, but providing more opportunities for the residents and expanding great services. And we've done that in the last 3 years. I mean, last year we were under the cap. This year we kept things flat. And I believe as of today, we're the only county in New York State that every union contract settled, every non-union worker got a pay raise. And the great thing is we didn't use one-shot gimmicks. We didn't raise property taxes to pay for all this. And I didn't use reserve funding. As I sit here today, our reserves are about $48 million. And I take pride in that, knowing that we did all this on a zero base and expanding our services on top of all that. You got to think outside the house. I'll say outside the house.
Sure.
I learned that in Harvard when I was over there talking about oil trains. They said, no, it's no longer outside the box, it's outside the house. And we have to do things differently. And people have to, work with us. And, a lot of the workers rolled up their sleeves, gave us great ideas how to improve services, but do it for less. And that's what we've been doing. And it translates, because as I've gone around this county since day one, I started doing the budget tour. I called it the budget tour. I did all 19 municipalities and any neighborhood association or any group that wanted to hear me. And I shortly realized I was losing people. They didn't care about the numbers. They didn't care. This one lady raised her hand. She said, "Mr. Executive, are my taxes going up?" And as soon as I said, well, we're under the cap, she got up and walked out, and so did 20 other people. So it shortly realized to me that they're more concerned about their taxes and some other things, because we're coming out of this great recession. People are having a hard time putting food on their table, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, finding a job, and our job market's back. And I take pride in the fact that I believe we're like 8.1 unemployment rate, and we're at 4% as of today, which I take a lot of pride in. But these jobs that we've created are not paying as much as the jobs that we lost. So people might have had a job making 70, now they're making 40. They have to adjust their lifestyle, so it's not easy. These are things we got to work for. And as I was going around this great county of ours, I took on office hours, and I wanted to listen to the people. And I set up in city halls, and I set up in town supervisors' buildings, and I basically announced that we're going to be here. And people were shocked, and they would come in, and some would say you're doing a great job. Some would say we need this to improve, because I go, at the end of the day, I work for you, and if I don't hear from you, I can't fix a problem.
Sure.
And, because someone said to me at one day, he goes, well, how's it feel to be the boss? And I go, I work for 310,000 people. And I said, I work for you. So at the end of the day, how do you want county government to work? And we interact with every municipality differently as a partnership. Consolidations. Kevin Crozier up in the town of Bern. We're plowing town roads. He's plowing the county roads, because we have to get over the town roads to get to the county roads. It just made sense.
It makes sense.
And we're talking about sharing a salt shed, doing a maintenance facility together. These things save taxpayers up in Bern and Westerlo money, as well as taxpayers in Albany County.
But here's the thing. Everybody is always going to say, that's great, but what about me? What, like you said, people want to know if their taxes are going up, or they may be happy they're not going up, but you must encounter people that say, when are they going to go down?
I know, but we kept it flat. We were at 0%. And I said, we've done all these great things, all these new initiatives, attracted new companies here, and I raised your taxes 0%, zero. To me, that's not a small accomplishment, especially in government.
Something that was huge. I'm going to stop you, because something that was huge, that was a big accomplishment that happened and involved Colonie, was Huck Finns. Hoffman's Playland to Huck Finns. How hard was that, making that happen?
That was tough, but we've, as you know, they put it on Facebook. Someone started Facebook. It went up to over 20,000 people on there. We were being contacted from across this great nation, not just in Albany County, people talking about the memories. And I said, we have to do something. So I immediately reached out to Dave and Ruth Hoffman. They are the two nicest people I've ever met. Love them. We sat down, and, it was hard for them. They put their love into this Huffman's, and their whole life. They spent their whole summers running that place, where most people go on vacation, go to the beach. They're spending the nice time here in the Northeast.
But they wanted to retire.
Yeah, they want to retire and enjoy their life, and I don't blame them. So we worked with them, and we had a couple deals, and we thought it was going to go someplace else, and it fell through. And then he was getting ready to auction off the equipment, and Huck Finn's family stepped in. We reached out to them, and Jeff Sperber and his brother and the Huck Finn family came together. We made it work. It's opened. It's so successful.
You can see it from 787.
Yeah, people love it. They're down there. I had my kids down there. It's just, they're really enjoying it. And I'm glad, because you don't know when you take it from, the suburbs of Albany County, and we moved it into the city, you don't know how it's going to translate. And he took a gamble. And I got to tell you, it's really, the people are showing up. It's working. And it's actually helping to revitalize downtown Albany, in the city of Albany. And that was one of the things when I talked to Mayor Sheen about, was that this will help you. This will help you with the Live at 5, change that culture, to get more people to come in with their families, to enjoy that, to enjoy Live at 5, go to the nice restaurants. And there's great restaurants, from Prime to, you just think about Yono's. There's a lot of great places to eat in downtown Albany, Jack's, that you can go with your family. And this will really incorporate more people going into downtown Albany.
And also what's going to happen too is there's the new convention center.
Yes.
And the renovations at the Times Union Center, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. Can you talk briefly, we are talking with Albany County Executive Daniel P. McCoy, talk briefly for a couple minutes about the update with the convention center and what we can see at the as it's tied into the revamped Times Union Center.
They changed a lot of it. Obviously it was supposed to be down by the bus station, and they moved it up. But it kind of made more sense, because now they're incorporating the convention center in the Empire State Plaza and the Egg with the Times Union Center, with their convention center, with a walkway that, we're in the Northeast, people. It's either snowing, cold, or raining, and people don't want to be outside. So now that you can park your car indoors and really not have to worry about wearing a jacket or bringing an umbrella, and really enjoy all three sites, it's going to be
So
unbelievable.
they'll all be connected?
They will be all connected. The walkways will, I think they're bringing, and I hope they're going to put back the movable sidewalk so you can stand on it, and it will help seniors get up and down, and but this is going to be huge for downtown Albany. If you look at Wellington Row and Nexus, I take pride in helping relocate that company down from Glens Falls. Omar Usmati, he took over the old Elks 49 building. If there's any Elks out there, Elk members that remember the old Elks building down on State Street, you should go see it. He kept the first 2 floors pretty much the way it was when it was the old Elks Club. You would enjoy that. And also, there's a bridal shop, Capital Bank, and then most importantly, the Renaissance Hotel that took over the old DeWitt. That is going to be a high-end hotel that's going to have a walkway from their hotel into the convention center and right through the Empire State Plaza, which is really going to make it, again, convenient for people when the weather's not good, that they can stay indoors the whole time and not have to walk outside. And it's really re-energizing, because when we knocked the building down to build the convention center, and I said we're echoing out an old era and bringing in a new, and people don't realize in Albany County, that is the heartbeat of this county, because if downtown Albany is not going to survive, it's going to affect the rest of the county.
Wow. There's so much that I know I wanted to still talk to you about. Medical marijuana dispensaries.
Yes.
I know thumbs up, thumbs down, Albany County. Just
thumbs
very
up.
briefly.
We got 3 sites. I mean, people are complaining, and I don't blame them, but I'm happy we got 3 sites. It's gonna mean jobs, and it's gonna mean revenue for Albany County.
Wonderful. Citizen of the Month, very quickly,
Citizen
you're doing that?
Reverend Bailey, we just did. Great pastor. He started actually Camp Opportunity up at Lawson's Lake that myself with Sheriff Apple in a partnership, we reopened a 421-acre park that Albany County owned for all these years, and we revitalized it with no taxpayers' money, working with all the unions, the trades. I can't thank them enough, from the painters to operating engineers to the laborers to the bricklayers to the iron workers. I could just go on.
Sure.
Steam fitters, hopefully I didn't forget any of them. And other companies. And Reverend Bailey just had such an impact on a lot of youth in the inner city over the years. And when we reopened it 2 years ago, we had the pleasure of bringing him out here. So I thought, who better than to recognize than Reverend Bailey? So
Citizen of the Month, I know if you go to albanycounty.com, people can nominate, and you pick a citizen every month.
Absolutely. I think, I always say to people, don't look up to movie stars, politicians, sports heroes. Look up to your average neighbor, the person that works day in and day out, that leads by example, that influenced your life, influenced the kids on the street, or whatever it may be. These are the people we want to recognize in Albany County.
Well, thank you. Thank you. There's so much more we can talk about, and I know that you'll come back again, and we'll talk about a lot of other programs and services in Albany County. So thank you to Albany County Executive Daniel P. McCoy for joining us here today. I'm Mary Rozak. Thanks for watching Albany County News. We'll see you soon.